What's up, guys? We are back with another show. Today, I'm going to go ahead and recap and take some calls about Submission Underground. It was a really interesting card. A lot of finishes, some controversy, which is always good for promoters. So, I'm going to go ahead and share this out, give a shout out to the sponsors, and then we'll get right into breaking it down and getting people's thoughts and opinions on the event. So first and foremost, shout out to NogiNation.com. Go ahead out there and get your Nogi apparel, rash guard shorts, t-shirts, all that fun stuff, www.nogination.com. Also, shout out to Liberty Ammo, www.libertyammo.com, my everyday carry for self-defense ammo. The best self-defense ammo in the market, in my opinion. So you can go there, use code StarLord for 10% off your purchase. Definitely recommend doing that. They're up here in the corner. Sorry, my dog is trying to get in here as well. After that, we have a Shot of Freedom whiskey, right? Have a Shot of Freedom whiskey is my favorite whiskey brand. I was drinking it all night last night while I was on with Raph and all those guys with Verbal Tap. It's a Kentucky bourbon, highly recommended. They also have a gin if you're interested in that kind of stuff. www.haveashotoffreedom.com. You can use code StarLord for 15% off merch. It doesn't go to booze because booze is sold by local distributors and stuff like that. So my code is only good for merch, but they got some great shirts and stuff like that there. And again, they are a veteran-owned company, so big shout out to them. I love what they're doing, and I love the product. Last but not least, CBDUme.com, www.cbdume.com/StarLord. Best CBD on the market, my personal favorite. So if you enjoy CBD products that will not get you popped on drug tests, definitely go check them out. All right, so Submission Underground, fucking crazy. All right, I was one fight away from hitting like a $700 parlay, and that was the Boogie Austin Vanderford match. And I was super surprised that Boogie ended up losing that one, especially in overtime. I thought Boogie would have had that on, but Austin looked pretty good, man. He had a tight squeeze on the back and actually tapped Boogie with a head and arm choke. There was a little bit of controversy about Boogie not being able to transition to the arm in overtime. That's like my only criticism. I only have two criticisms of Submission Underground ever. And it's, oh shit, my fucking dog. Hold on. There we go. Hey, you gotta stop. Fucking dog. But yeah, it's my only two criticisms ever are the fact that the matches are 5 minutes long and the refereeing normally doesn't understand EBI rules. I'm not an EBI rules hater. I love watching EBI rules matches, but you have to have consistency across the board when it comes to the overtime, right? And it's tough because Eddie's the only one that really knows the EBI rules, because if you've ever been to one of the events and in the rules meeting, they change every event. So it's very difficult to stay up on it, but basic things like transitioning from the back to arm bars and transitioning between submission attempts should be something that's known across the board. But I guess Emil is going to come on too. So 1 second.
Yo.
What's up, dude?
How's it going?
How are you?
Yeah.
You won some money last night?
You know, I did, but it looks like Josh cut out here. I did win some money, but BetDSI is weird, man. They have like a minimum cash out of $5,000. I didn't realize that shit until I went to cash out. I'm probably going to report it to my credit card company because that's a fucking scam. How are you going to make people bet that much money? Seriously. The fuck? Josh, come back. Josh. Yeah, whoever watched this shit last night, it was a crazy show. Absolutely crazy show. If you have not tuned in to watch Submission Underground, I recommend dropping the $10 on UFC Fight Pass and getting on there. Are you back? You back?
Holy shit, my dog fucking destroyed my setup. She saw like a squirrel or something and then just disappeared and took everything with it. But fuck.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I did win a bit of money. I
Uh,
mean, I lost a bit of money on the parlays, but the thing is that fucking Bet DSI, I didn't realize this until I went to cash out because they don't tell you up front. They have some minimum cash out of like $5,000.
are you serious?
Yeah, I'm gonna report it to my credit card company because that's a fucking scam.
I'm gonna have to check it out because I know I've cashed out before on Bet DSI and it was never that high. You might just be retarded.
Maybe, and if I am, I am, but I don't think I am because I went to cash out and it was like, oh, you can't do this. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, that's weird. Because I mean, I only bet like $200, but still, like, I definitely won some matches because that did some straight ones. I know you and I had the same parlay with Joe Bays, Boogie, and Ethan Krellinston. And
Yeah.
man, that Boogie Austin Vanderford match was interesting, man. You know, like I was a little surprised they didn't let Boogie transition to that armbar in the overtime, but give credit to Mr. Van Zant where it's due. He choked Boogie and actually submitted him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, when Boogie shows up, he shows up. But he just did not look like he was really there yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely agree with that. Boogie, when he's on fire. When he's not, I mean, he loses to people he shouldn't, like we saw, which is crazy because I really thought he was going to get that armbar. Like Austin did a really good job of escaping that armbar extremely quickly, you know?
So it's something that I actually work on because I train with some really athletic MMA fighters who roll a lot like what Mr. Van Zant rolls like. And unless you have people that roll like that to roll with, it's tough. But what you have to do with people like that is you slow the submission down. If you slow the submission down, and I'm, it's entirely possible that Austin would have escaped my armbar too. I'm not trying to tell Boogie his business. So Boogie, if you're watching, sorry. But like, if you slow the submission down, if you try to fucking like clamp everything and like get your butt real close to them and like, you're not interested in finishing. You're just interested in holding the position. You can usually finish a good MMA fighter. But if you're trying to rip it like Boogie seemed like he was trying to do, that's when they can fucking freak athlete out of it.
Yeah, and I don't even think it was Boogie trying to rip it because what Boogie did is he transitioned to that bicep slicer, and that's when Austin got out. And that's the only downside about that bicep slicer, especially with a guy like Boogie whose legs are so long. When you transition to that triangle over the forearm, there's a chance where they can do exactly what Austin did, rotate and get his elbow to the floor.
You're talking about an OT?
Yeah.
I was talking about the when he went like the almost like the closest submission Boogie had.
Right in the beginning.
Yeah, he tried to rip that shit.
Yeah.
And when he tried to rip it, that's when Austin was able to slip out. I think that if Boogie had like clamped that shit, was like, no, we're staying here for a little bit, I think Boogie would have finished the armbar.
Yeah, and I mean, we're Monday morning quarterbacking everything. So, I mean, like, everything's different. And I got mad love for Boogie. He's one of my favorite dudes in jiu-jitsu. So this shouldn't be taken as too much criticism. It's just us, kind of talking. So we had a question here about if Vinny actually tapped or did Craig just stop? And if you go on Vinny's Instagram, you can see the video and where they were talking about it after. He basically conceded. It was technically a verbal tap, but Craig is a really fucking nice guy.
Well, it was funny because, like, I'm still convinced that Leglocks don't work, man. I think that Vinny didn't tap the leg lock. He tapped, it's like one of those things. I think he just cracked his got a little spiral fracture when he's walking up into the cage. Fuck Craig Jones, man.
He broke it while he was bouncing around warming up. It wasn't the leg lock. Leg locks would never work. But on a real note, there's pictures going around right now with Vinny's knee in one direction and his foot completely twisted the other way. That is.
Did you see him do that shit to himself?
I've seen him do that stuff before.
I mean, he did it to himself in the like when they were like hanging out afterwards, like near the cage. That video that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can see him literally take his foot and turn it the wrong way, and it's like, what the fuck, bro?
I mean, it also is broken now, so it's probably easier to turn it the other way.
It was the other
now
foot.
That it was the other foot.
That too. It was the good.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing doing it to yourself, and it's another thing having a mad Australian trying to twist your foot right off. Did you watch any of the fight companion we did last night?
I watched bits and pieces. I was salty I didn't get invited, so fuck you guys. But no,
Oh,
I did
well.
watch a little bit. The thing is that my Facebook, when I watch Facebook live videos, the audio for whatever reason cuts out. I don't know what the fuck why it does that, but the audio just randomly cuts out.
Did you hear Jake Watson's impression of Lachlan?
No, it was good.
Oh my God. He has like one of the greatest Australian accents. Like he's a legit black belt, but he should just like transition to acting just based off that accent alone. He was pretty fucking good. I was losing my mind. So what other matches did you find really interesting on the card?
Ethan versus Austin Alexander was fucking amazing. Like what an amazing match.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always like watching Joe Baez compete because like I studied his game so much for our matches that watching him do it live to another person makes me happy. So that was cool, but like really Ethan versus Austin was I think the best match.
You mean not Austin? That was. Give me a second. Sorry, I'm a little hungover today. Andrew Alexander. Yeah, that was a really good match. I agree. Andrew had some good positions on Ethan. He had a couple bites on his leg. Nothing like super serious, but Ethan's passing is always amazing. But what I really enjoyed was his ability to impinge the hips with his knee cut and really get to that home base and transition to leg drags and stuff like that.
Watching that match, I actually sent Andrew a message after the match was over, telling him he did a fucking great job. He looked amazing out there.
Yeah,
like, he looked like he belonged out there. That being said, I think that Andrew's major mistake was trying to heel hook Ethan. I think that if Andrew had gone to Achilles locks or Aoki locks, he would have won because he had the position. He had the fucking position. He was so focused on getting the heel hooks, and Ethan was doing such a good job of slipping.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for a while. I really believe the ankle locks are going to start making more of a comeback. They were really big in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then now everybody's into the heel hooks. But when it comes to heel hooks, you have to have a greater form of control. You know, you have to control the hip, the knee, and the ankle. And it's also a rotational break. So if you can free your hip and rotate a little bit, it often leads to back takes and stuff like that. Whereas the ankle lock, you don't have to have as much control, and it's much more difficult to slip out. Plus, we've seen Ethan be susceptible to ankles and Aoki locks in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian's asking how Vinny wasn't puking from the pain. Never seen a guy have a nice conversation while being crippled. Dude, adrenaline is a fucking hell of a drug. Like,
dude, leg locks don't work. Leg locks don't fucking work.
When I broke that guy's leg, like he was in a way better place than I was. Like he was completely calm. He's like, "Hey, somebody call the ambulance," having a conversation with me, and I'm losing my fucking mind. So like when you're in the match and something snaps like that, I mean, look at Henzo versus Sakuraba. You know, Henzo didn't fucking flinch. Like the adrenaline will get you going places.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: if the video after the match of Vinny turning the other foot the wrong way is any indicator, it's entirely possible that he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible he's fine, but he definitely said he doesn't have stability. So, I mean, I think he's I don't think he's going to have surgery, but I think he is going to be out for a few months. Thomas is here talking about the ankle locks, basically seconding what we're saying. But, yeah, dude, like that Joe Baez Maximov match was really interesting. I don't know why anybody thought Joe was the underdog in that match. It's
I loved it, man. When I saw that he was the underdog, I was like, wait a minute. Like Maximov could win this, but Maximov should not be the favorite to win it.
Yeah.
Like Joe is human. He's beatable. A person can physically beat him. However, he's very difficult to beat unless you know how to play that meta game.
Yeah, exactly. And I was a little worried because it looked like it was going to overtime because, I mean, with Joe, it's like if he goes in there and wins, it's usually in the first 2 minutes or so. And then after that point, it gets a little hairy. But he had a lot of really good composure because I thought he was going to get a little frustrated with Maximov doing a good job keeping his hips away, trying to like make it look like he's trying to pass, but kind of make it to overtime. But, dude, Maximov looked huge in there too.
I like the way Joe did the arm drag to that like koala guard.
Yeah.
Like that like the way he's like hugging the leg and was like playing from there and then pulling him in the deep half. I liked how he did that because I mean, if you've ever been in Joe's half guard, it's a super sketchy, awful place to be.
Yep.
Maximov felt like it was funny because, like, you heard Shale's commentary. He's like, Maximov saw something that made him not want to be there. It's like, yeah, Joe Bays.
Yeah, pretty much. You mean the one place you don't want to be with Joe Bays, his half guard? Yeah, of course he doesn't want to fucking be there.
It was funny when I went against him at the Arnold, which was my last match in competition, and I got in his half guard. I was like, "Fuck this! No, take my back. Do anything. Whatever. Fuck, get the fuck out of my hat. Like, no, no. Like, I did not want to be there."
Yeah, dude, it's a scary place to be. Like, I've rolled with Joe a lot, and even being much bigger than him at the time, I was probably 220, and this was back when he was like 170-ish. It was still very scary because he had really good ability of getting underneath you and just like not even really wasting energy with it. It's just kind of like you're floating through. But what'd you think about the refereeing last night?
It was okay, I guess.
Yeah.
The OT in the boogie match was questionable.
Yeah, that was the only questionable thing I saw last night.
It was questionable. I couldn't see how, like, where the guy's forearm was relative to Boogie, at least not where I was, not like what I was looking at. So it's possible that the guy was out, but I feel like they called it a little bit quickly.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, so my attitude with EBI OT is that if you're escaping a sub, you should be out of the sub for a moment, just a brief moment, before they can call it, because the person could be transitioning or something. Like, I had a match at that at Dave Garmo's thing where he was out of the sub, but he was in a triangle right away.
Yeah.
And the referee didn't call it, and I got the triangle. Now, it's possible that referee from last night would have called that out. Now,
yeah, I mean, I think the refereeing overall was improved because it used to be really atrocious. Like, it seemed like the guy didn't really even understand overtime rules. I think it was a lot better last night. When I run events, I always tell my referees, like, let it go like a hair longer. I'd rather see you call it late than call it early, because you call it early, like, that's like it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. If you call it late, it's not nearly as bad, especially when we're talking like a second or two. A second or two early seems way more pronounced than a second or two late. So yeah, I agree with that, man. I'm like, everybody's bitching about the EBI overtime. I have no problem with the overtime. The only problem I have with Submission Underground is the fact that they have 5-minute rounds, and I would love to see that longer, because for black belts, 5 minutes is not enough time to like really make something happen, And the only reason we saw Craig and Vinny could have very well been a snooze fest, And the only reason it wasn't is because Vinny tried to prove a point and just let Craig on his fucking leg,
Oh, I loved it when he did that.
Yeah, like it very well could, and that is the nice thing about the 5 minutes, is if it is totally boring, it's only 5 minutes. But then you go to fucking overtime with guys who are fucking boring in regulation. It's just not fucking fun for anyone, And it sucks because there's no real good answer to the rules in general. Every rule set will be manipulated, and that's the job of the athlete. Do their best to win and play within the rules.
I think that the Fisher rules, man. I don't know how much you've talked about this, but I threw this out to you a while ago, that you do, judge's decision, like you have like 2 or 3 judges, and then one of the options is the OT.
Oh, you mean Zapatero rules? Yeah.
I mean, I came up with the idea before you did.
I don't know about that, Emil. I think
I have of me telling you that you should do this. You go, oh, that's actually a really good idea.
So what Emil's talking about, because he doesn't make sense when he's explaining it, is you have 3 judges, okay? And they have 3 decisions. Red corner wins, blue corner wins, or go to overtime. And if the way I was going to implement it is, unless it was a complete domination, you would be going to overtime. I don't want to see a winner declared in a competitive match, okay? That's what overtime's for. It's competitive, you go to overtime. If it's a complete domination, then yes, someone gets their hand raised, because then it eliminates the fact that you could be, destroying someone for 10 minutes and then they get to start on your arm or neck.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is none of the matches that went to overtime last night would have been a ref's decision. Like,
No.
and there was not a boring match last night.
Yeah, it was a good event.
And one thing that was interesting was I saw Heather, the matchmaker.
Our post this morning.
Yeah, I don't know if it was this morning or last night. I think it was last night about Austin Vanderford.
What? I don't think I saw that one. What'd you say?
So she was saying that, oh, if you were complaining about I think Nicki Rod or Vinny running
Yeah.
something to that effect, that you're and honestly, like, I didn't think that Vanderford was running.
Yeah, I don't think he was running either. I think he played just enough in there. And I mean, it's very difficult to just like really engage when right off the bat in the first 30 seconds you're in a horrible fucking position where you almost got submitted. Like, that's going to make you hesitant, and that needs to be kind of like understood, I don't think it needs to be like promoted or given a pass to, but it's something that people need to understand.
So the way I see it is, if you're in the pocket with the other person, if you're in the pocket and you look like you might be trying to pass, or you look like you might be trying to set up a sub, you're good in my book. I mean, I would, if I were a promoter, I would have that guy on my card.
Yeah, as long as you're not like doing, because Maximov was the only one that was borderline, like just trying to kind of stall, Everyone else seemed
that half guard was like, fuck that. Like,
yeah.
I want, because you feel it. Like, it's funny because you see it on video, and I've watched Joe's half guard on video, and in our first two matches, I had zero interest in being there. In our third match, it was a points match, 5 minutes at Grappling Industries. And I was like, I'm not gonna go out like this. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna wind up losing on points. I'm gonna either get subbed or do the subbing. Like, so I got in his half guard, and I was like, no.
Yeah, that Gabriel Check, Jake Ellenberger match was pretty good. Yeah,
good.
Checo looks pretty good, man. Jake looked tiny compared to him. Checo looked like he was on all the extra sauce.
I mean, he's not going to be fighting anytime soon.
No, I mean, might as well. I mean, you're not getting drug tested, but yeah, dude, like, he looked really fucking good. I'd like to see him in there against like a more, I don't want to say like an A-level black belt, but I want to see him in there against someone that's not another MMA fighter, because I think he'll be fairly competitive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Checo, I'd never actually heard of him before this. Honestly,
he was on one of the, it wasn't Quintet, it was the Fight Pass Quintet thing they were doing, when they had that team BJJ Fanatics with Lachlan and Nicki Rod and Gordon, all that. He was on Chael's team.
Did he get subbed by Lachlan?
I don't know if I think he went to a draw with Nicki, is how I remember it. I don't really remember that event too much, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he went to a draw with Nicki.
That was a good lineup. Like, credit where it's due.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about the team format. I like it, but at the same time, I feel like if you're going to reward draws, I don't know.
I don't think it's rewarding. I think both guys get eliminated. That's pretty fair.
I think that, like, for example, in your quintet event where Detroit Jiu-Jitsu won, I think that they were rewarded for Khalil's stalling.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but it's also gamesmanship, like in every sport, you're going to have people who learn how to make the rules work to their advantage, and that's constantly the battle between a promoter and the athletes, and changing the rule sets to keep things exciting,
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, they won fair and square, but
it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I think that if what's that?
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It did. Yeah. Because I was like, really, that's how you're gonna fucking take this? That's gonna be the way you do it?
Yeah, fucking $4 or $5 grand on the line, so got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. So, do you have any matches that you want to see after this event?
I mean, in general, like from this event, or just
like maybe some of the winners in there against someone else. Like, what are some matches with some of the guys who looked good last night you'd want to see?
I want to see Craig Jones versus Nicki Rod.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're on the same team now or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to see Craig Jones versus Kyle Bame.
That'd be a good match.
I had Kyle Bame on last night. He kept covering his microphone like I was doing that one time.
Yeah.
but like he just kept doing it like repeatedly, and it just kind of ruined it. It was like half the time was like, yeah. Well, I want to see that. That'll be a good matchup. I want to see. I'd love to go against Boogie personally. I don't know if we're the same weight or like if we're even close.
You're not.
Oh.
But he might do it because Mr. Mr. Van Zandt looked pretty big last night.
Yeah, I'd want to do that match just because I after having watched him a few times, I feel like stylistically it'd be an interesting match.
Yeah. I really want to see Ethan versus Jordan Hawley.
I want to see that as well. Have they gone before?
I don't think so. If they did, it was probably way back in like the Kumite days over in Texas. But yeah, no, I definitely want to see that match. I wouldn't mind seeing Ethan take on like an Imanari or someone of that caliber as well, because I think it'd be an interesting match. Or even what's his face from who just won Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, Tom Halpin. That'd be a good match.
Ethan went against Tom Halpin.
Did he?
Yeah, he went against him at Polaris, and he strangled him.
Oh yeah. I remember that now. That was one of the open rounds of the tournament.
What?
It was one of the opening rounds of their tournament over there.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't the tournament.
Yeah, because they did a mini tournament that spanned across multiple events to crown their lightweight and featherweight champion. So it was like the first round. Yeah.
You're right.
I'd like to see that rematch though, because I think Tom's gotten a lot better, and it showed over there at EBI. And I think it would just be a fun match to watch. I definitely think Craig versus Kyle would be a good match as well. I wouldn't mind seeing Kyle against like Gabriel Check either.
Kyle and Gabriel Check trained together.
Oh, you're right. They were training with Vinny.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was gonna say Vinny versus Gabriel Check, but I mean, yeah. I want to get on a submission underground, but they don't. I actually talked to the lady last night, and she was saying that they don't even give money to the winners of undercard matches.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't pay for the travel and stuff like that. But I totally get that. I don't pay for the travel or give money to the winners of my undercard matches, unless you get to the main card and you're actually like someone who deserves money.
Guess. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you win a match, there should be bonuses available.
I mean, potentially, but Chill's also, everybody can run the events the way they want, go run your own event if you want to pay everybody on the undercard.
Sure. I mean, it's one of those things, like, as long as they're straightforward, as long as they don't tell me they're going to pay me and then don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't fucking care. Yeah. And if I'm going to put it out to my sponsors and be like, hey, if you guys want to see me on UFC Fight Pass wearing your shit, help me get out there. And if they do, then I'll do it.
Yeah. And
just for the experience and exposure.
I mean, the thing I tell my guys too is like, if you get a call on Submission Underground and it's a good matchup for you against like a decent name, like the Jordan Frank match, like that match anywhere else would have gotten paid, but it was on the undercard of Submission Underground. But I told Jordan to take that because if it goes well, that's a huge platform and it's going to raise your overall ability. And next time you come back, you'll probably be on the main card. Plus, the Fight Pass marketing team is pretty insane. So if you hit like a crazy submission or like a crazy move like Imanari did at EBI, it'll go viral, and that also has value with it as well.
Yeah, virality. I feel like the best example of that is Marvin Castell.
Yeah, Marvin and Jeremiah.
Yeah, I mean, just watching how Marvin, more than Jeremiah, even like Jeremiah, certainly with his with that Sulev stretch that he hit is doing great. But
yeah,
Marvin's Imanari role, I almost feel like that was career making.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, like he's doing camps on all Leglocks and stuff like that based off a couple of Imanari rolls on Fight to Win. Yeah,
I think that like, to me, that's the reason to do these things. That's the reason that I'm willing to do Fight to Wins for not a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean, look at that was on a Fight to Win too, and that was back when he was a brown belt, so he wasn't making a bunch of money for that.
$150 to win that.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, that stuff that came from that will feed his family for a decade, so
or longer, depending on what he does with it from there.
Yeah, it all depends. Like, I'm not a huge fan of being like, oh, exposure isn't worth anything, because I know it is, but I'm also, you have to understand the risk and reward and realize where you're at in your career. Like, I'm not going to tell Boogie to go on the undercard of Submission Underground for free because maybe it'll get his name out there. No, but like a guy like you who wants to go out there and get a call up on some of these bigger shows, then yeah, like it might be worth it, because whether you like it or not, they'll help you get your name out there.
Right. No, I fully understand that logic. And that's something that I've, at this point, pretty much anytime I can get my travel covered, I don't care where the money comes from. That's the big thing. Like, I don't care if they're paying me, as long as I know what to expect. As long as they're not like, yeah, we'll give you $1,000 if you win. Then I got there and they're like, no, we don't pay undercard.
Which is something Submission Underground doesn't do, by the way. I'm just gonna throw that out there because we are talking about their show right now. I don't want it to sound like we're saying they screw people, because they don't.
No, they don't. I've never heard anything bad about them.
Yeah, I've only heard positive things about them all paying very quickly.
Yeah, 2 of my teammates have actually been on the card. Jeff Pelton was on one of the first ones.
Yeah, and, who I'd really want to see. I want to see Joe Bays against Gonzaga.
Gabriel Gonzaga?
Yeah, because Gonzaga was on that last one against against Gordon. Jesus, my brain is fucking. I don't even know how I made that comparison. But
King? I don't know. The GOAT?
Yeah, I'd like to see Joe against Gonzaga, or maybe like a Munson, or like another one of those legends, because like Joe's not super old, he's 37, 38, and he's still competing at a high level, and he should keep doing that. But I'd love to see him against someone that's not a young up and comer, because it's I don't know. He proves his points very well going out there and submitting these young guys, which is fucking amazing. And I hope I could do a quarter of what he's doing at his age, and not just his age, but his how long he's been competing and shit like that. Like he's been at it since he was like 16, 17 years old. But I'd like to see him against another one of those big names, one of the former UFC guys.
I think he deserves the respect.
Yeah,
I think that the matchups that he has given very often, and I don't mean this to like downplay his opponents, and I'm one of those people that he's gone against, but I feel like some of these matchups are almost like, they're beneath him.
Yeah. And the thing about Joe is he just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I know, and I respect the shit out of that.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like, it's not about like he is a fucking warrior in that he accepts any match that he's offered, and he'll just fucking do it, and he'll be grateful to be there.
Yep.
Which is just, I mean, that's amazing considering the caliber of competitor that he is. But that being said, I do think that, pairing him up with, a brown belt that took 3rd at Worlds, and like that's his fucking crowning accomplishment, that he took 3rd at Worlds, and that he didn't get subbed by Steven Martinez, but he got beaten like handily on points. I mean, I don't see that as being a respectful matchup. Like I think Joe should only be paired up with black belts or with people that are consistently winning titles or that have won titles. If you haven't won a title, you shouldn't be going up against somebody like Joe Bays.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I understand why Submission Underground is doing it, because they're like, okay, well, if he wins, he was supposed to win, but if he loses, it puts a little bit of steam on the guy coming up. But I feel like Joe ends up either getting one way or the other. He either gets like Gordon Ryan, Dante Leon, or Wagner, or he gets like this Maximov kid, the other guy, which, like, again, no disrespect to them, but I do feel like Joe deserves his chance to get that exposure he deserves. And I know you and I are both big fans of him, so we should keep talking about him. But it's like he comes from that era of talk shit, get hit, doesn't really like to talk too much, and people just kind of sleep on him. And I don't know. It would just be nice to see him against somebody of his caliber and get the respect he deserves on these big cards.
Well, that's why I always, like, anytime anybody ever asks me, like, who to watch, who are the guys, I always say, man, watch this fucking guy. Yeah. Because the reality is, for his build, the way he's built, to be able to do the kind of leg juggling that he does is fucking next level. And, studying him, the only thing I was able to learn was how to beat that, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I really want to learn how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting style because it's very different than anything that current leg lockers do. You know, like I mean, it's not super different, but it has its own intricacies that are very counterpoint to what is happening in the leg locking game now.
Yeah, it's actually conceptually similar to some of the catch concepts.
Yeah, and I mean, he comes from High Stand and Gokor and Max Bishop and stuff like that. So I mean, it makes sense.
Right, catch. I mean, the catch concepts are very much. It's like leg locking before leg locking before leg locking. Like in the before time, we had the unique style that is catch wrestling, and nobody fucking does that shit now.
Yeah, cool. Ooh. I think Joe's texting me. I'm going to see if he wants to come on real quick. You keep talking.
I want to get back to competing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were going to do a submission on the ground, you said Boogie, but who else would you like to see?
They were talking last night about Anthony Smith, and I'd like to compete against Anthony Smith. I feel like that'd be a fun match. Chael Sonnen was saying that he's having a hard time finding somebody to go against Anthony Smith. Well, you have your fight to win brown belt Masters light heavyweight champ. You have Zapatero champ. You have the King of the Mat champ, Modern Flow champ. So, I mean, I'd take the match. I'd love to do that match. I feel like that would be an amazing match for me. I don't think I'd win, but I'd give it a shot. I'd give it the old college try. That's one that I'd love to do. I know that Brasco went against Smith. Have you ever seen that fight?
No,
Have you ever shown me that?
No, and I don't want to see it.
Brasco had his back. He had a fucking choke sunk in. Smith escaped it. At some point during the fight, Smith had cut Brasco. The fight got stopped on that.
On the cut. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, Brasco gets I mean, he's a whiner, but he's a good guy, and he's had some fucking high-level matches and stuff like that against some really good guys in the past.
Yeah.
That's another good match, Bays and Brasco, because they're both older. They both went to ADCC a couple times. Like, that'd be an interesting stylistic matchup. I don't think Brasco would kind of want that because he likes to stay away from the leg locky guys. But
I was going to say, number one, I don't think that Brasco would want that match. But even if he took it, I think that you've rolled with Brasco.
Yeah.
I think that the way that match would go, it would go to overtime.
And neither of their overtime games is super phenomenal.
Right, and it would wind up being that if I had to guess, I think that Brasco would try to take it to overtime. I think that Bays could theoretically catch him, but I think Brasco just wouldn't give a fuck about trying to submit him. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. Like, if you want to submit the guy, that's where Bays is dangerous.
Yeah.
If you're trying to sub him, that's when he beats you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I don't. As interesting of a matchup as that would be, I think that we'd both be disappointed in how it went.
You know who I want to see also on Submission Underground again is that Fabiano Scherner. He's super OG. Like, he had a match against, I think he had Gonzaga and Tim Sylvia recently. But I'd like to see him against, like, maybe a Comprito or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Maybe Comprito and the Gi.
Yeah, you know what I really think people should do is they should have like a Masters League tournament, or just like not a tournament, but just a league for like these older guys who are like legends. Because you remember, it wasn't the most exciting, but you remember Mario Sperry versus what's his face, fucking Laborio. Yeah.
I never actually saw the match.
Yeah, I mean, it was like just two OGs pushing each other around the whole fucking 20 minutes, but like the build up to it was just insane because it was like these two legends of the sport. And I really think these legends, these guys who don't go in there, like, they could talk shit if they want to, but they don't need to talk shit. They become very very well hyped, but also in a different way where it's a little bit more respectful and like the old school mentality, you know?
All right, listen, I gotta go, dude.
Okay, bye.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, anyways, I'd love to see some of those older guys get in on their own events and stuff like that. I know Fight to Win does a really good job of selling the Masters events. They have Masters titles and stuff like that, and they're always really good matches. I'd like to see like an over 35 league or maybe like an over 45 league as well too, just because there's a lot of really cool old school guys that are still really competing very heavily, and I think it'd be interesting to see. You see Gokor went out there and recently won the IBJJF worlds in his weight class and his age level, and it was exciting. You know, he submits a lot of people. A lot of these guys, it's old school jiu-jitsu, but there's still a lot of submissions, and I don't know, it just brings out the nostalgia in some people. And I know me personally, I just love to see some of them get in there and compete. If you want to come on and talk about submission underground or anything else, just go ahead and put a comment over in the comment section. I'll send you a link to get you on. If not, I'm going to talk for a couple more minutes and we'll get going. But yeah, it was a good event overall. I was surprised because the last few submission undergrounds have had their problems and stuff like that. But I was really impressed with this one. All the matches were very exciting. The refereeing was much improved. Again, the only thing I'd like to see is maybe like a 7 or 8 minute match for the main card rather than 5. 5 for the undercard is totally fine. But I think 7 or 8 gives people a little bit of time to work, and that's kind of what we need to see these guys get where they need to. Hoping Vinny's fine, you know. I hope Craig's good too, because I know doing that to someone isn't easy, and it takes a toll on you mentally a little bit too. So even though it's a highlight of his career, I'm sure he feels horrible about it, and I'm sure he's, just because I know Craig's a really good guy, I'm sure he doesn't want Vinny to be in any harm. I didn't realize Vinny was 35 either. I thought he was a little bit younger than that. He's been around forever, so I mean it makes sense. But when he posted that he was 35, he's like, "Yeah, I'm glad I'm not going into knee surgery at 35." Like, made me realize he's got some miles on him too, because been fighting in the PFL for a few years at the UFC, and I mean he won the ADCC in fucking 2011, which I guess is 9 years ago now, which is crazy. But yeah, be interested to see what's next for Craig. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch with Mateus Diniz. You know, maybe like a Hodolfo or something like that. I think Craig deserves that. And Chill really hyped this up, saying this was a match to determine who the best grappler in the world is. I mean, we all know it's Gordon Nogi, but Craig definitely has the ability to be one of the best in the world, and potentially, like, he took silver this year at 88 kilos. So, I mean, I really could see Craig doing really, really big things at 88, even bigger than he has done now. So it's cool to see his game continue to improve. But I'm going to go ahead and start signing off now. I'm going to be back later. I think I might have an interview with Ethan Krellinson tonight. If not, it all depends on when he gets back in from Portland and stuff like that. If not, tomorrow I have Bill Murphy and Jake Shannon coming on. We're going to talk for a few hours because they're really interesting people. They have very high levels of education. They've been coaching forever. They've done shoot fights. They've done pro wrestling, boxing, everything. So it's going to be really cool to hear some old school stories and just kind of talk about shit in general. Wednesday, I got Jesse Mraz on at 6 p.m. So Jesse's super legit. He's one of the original Scientific Wrestling coaches, jiu-jitsu black belt, fucking killer. One of the greatest front headlock games I've felt. And he owns a gym called the Training Mat over in California outside of Anaheim. So he's coming on Wednesday, and then I have a couple more guests for Thursday and Friday. They'll announce later this week. So stay safe, guys. I'll talk to you guys later. I should be back on tonight with another broadcast. I'll for sure be back on teaching class tonight at 7, if not. So make sure you guys tune into that. All right, take it easy.